Welcome to our office hours. My name is Hannis Rudolph. I am the community manager here at Roo Code, and this is our 12th episode of Office Hours, where today we will just be handling questions and discussing topics such as the new Claude Code integration. Thank you to the help of, I guess, a client contributor who contributed to them, and we pulled it over to us. So, yeah, let's get some questions from the crowd. Yes, we could say crowd. It's starting to grow. Matt, are you going to join us? Is your camera working? And what do you guys think of my new background? Well, I mean, my wall. Just
I like the refrigerator better.
You like the refrigerator better, hey?
Is that your art, Hannis? Is that
Yeah,
your own
I'm not
giant?
that good at art, but nice try. I do my best. Okay. Questions. Roo Code literally changed my life. Thank you all so much. That's a great question. Well, actually, I guess not a question, but I'll take it.
So someone
Matt.
is saying, Kadash is
sorry,
saying,
Dan.
to start with a demonstration of Claude Code.
People are rolling in. We'll get them here in a sec. Okay, so let's talk about the Claude Code integration. What does it do? What it does is it uses Claude Code to your Claude Code Max or Pro subscription, and it allows you to submit your requests directly to Claude Code and then have the responses come out in Roo Code. We've got some fixes coming up the pipeline to enable caching or the visual display of caching. It was already enabled. And to correct the token count so that you don't end up with sessions hanging. It is a bit of a fly by the seat of your pants implementation. Something that happened pretty quick. So it's not the smoothest, but it definitely works. A lot of people have been using it. We've heard great feedback. So let's hear what we have for questions. I mean, I can show you it working right here. What's that PR that has the fix on it, Dan? You want to pull that up so I can check that one out?
Yeah.
Oh, I guess I can do that here.
5108. The one you created.
For Claude Code right there. So let's check out this pull request. And
should be reviewing this soon.
Okay. Let's see. Matt, is your mic working?
I think it is. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes, I can.
Okay, so someone is saying that the Claude Code integration seems to be slow. So what I think about that is probably because streaming is not enabled, or it's not. I don't know if it's not
Can't really
compatible
be enabled,
yet.
I think.
Yeah.
Correct.
So it looks like it's taking longer just because the text is not appearing right away, right?
Yeah.
It takes a while to complete the output and then feed back to Roo. So that's why it.
Makes sense.
Yeah, that's why it appears a bit slower than normal.
We need some of those cute loading messages like clotting and thinking, ruing, while we're waiting for it.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a few of those. We could put those. Just that would be fitting. So maybe we will do that. Let's make an issue. Let's make an issue for that.
Yeah, the streaming definitely feels more engaging. I agree that I'm not sure if it's actually faster when it's streaming.
Okay. Open a folder.
Also, I believe Claude Code does some thinking, some processing. I've seen it when you actually use it directly. It takes a while to, I guess, determine what it needs to do. So it might seem slower because it does some pre-processing, I believe. Not sure about that.
Wait, which one is this? Okay, we're going to kill this one. Stop sharing this window. And let's put this back again. Okay, let's get the questions while I monkey around here, everybody.
Okay. Someone is asking, for Roo rules, should we remove info regarding Context7? So I guess you're asking how to get Roo to use Context7 automatically. So you have two options. Well, I mean, what I use for that is either you create a mode that is specifically made to fetch content from Context7. Either you can make it a researcher mode, or you can add some rules, custom rules to Roo, so it uses that before answering you. So you can say before you answer about certain library or something that you're working on, use Context7 to research first. So you can add some rules. You can create a mode for that.
Okay. Any other questions? Now we've got my screen up. What were we going to do? We were going to use Claude Code. Let's see, we have it set up here. All we had to do was select this here is not quite working as intended. I think that the reasoning is happening one way or another. I think I'm going to remove that. And the purpose of that was to actually display the reasoning. Even though it wouldn't stream in real time, it was actually showing during tests, and then it stopped working. So I have to look at the JSON being output, see how to parse that properly. So anyways, you go into your settings here, set up Claude Code API provider. I already have it in my command line, so that's no problem. Let's save that. And let's make an issue. Issue writer. We're going to make an issue about... sorry, go ahead.
I don't know, you can continue.
The reasoning on the Claude Code provider is not displaying. Is it active? Now, this is how you can create issues. If you have the Roo repository, you can select issue writer mode. If you have the GitHub MCP server installed, see, it's taking its time, but I think that it's doing its output. Pro limit within 1 hour, several files at a time. Yes, I definitely suggest if you're going to be using this to go to the max subscription, but I'll be honest with you, I do not know how long it's going to last. I don't know if Anthropic's going to do what Microsoft did and get squirrely about it and start making lives difficult. But I mean, they're basically giving people unlimited access to their models unless you don't use their service or you don't use their tool. And so I don't see really the difference in using our tool or their tool. They actually have a larger system prompt than us, from what I understand. So I'm not sure it's a big deal, because I was looking at the SDK documentation yesterday, and it very clearly said that it's intended for people to use the way that we're using it. So we definitely don't want to be pissing off Anthropic and violating any terms of service. So we were careful to read up on it first, and yeah, they haven't indicated to us that that's a problem, and Klein is also doing it. I imagine others will follow as well. So that's where we're at on the screen here. Right now, it's apparently creating an issue. Okay, it's looking into the issue. I'm using Claude 4.0 Sonnet. But don't see any seasoning, reasoning, or thinking in display chat.
But you would say right now it's a good value to get that subscription, the
Yeah,
max
I would
one or
definitely
the
say
pro
that.
one?
So I guess maybe Anthropic should be sponsoring us because we're getting them all these subs. Yes, I would say the max one. The pro one, you can get your feet wet for $20 a month US. It seems to be pretty great. You hit limits fast, but you'll hit limits fast anyway. So, Matt, you always talk this much.
I don't know as much as you, so just letting the experts answer.
The experts. So, what are your thoughts on this Claude Code integration?
What am I?
Yeah, haven't given it a go yet.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great to integrate with as many things as we can. I agree the lack of streaming makes it feel like a little slower than what we're used to. I haven't done the side-by-side timing. I've also, I mean, I think the part that I'm kind of more interested in is like, Cloud Code seems really good, and what makes it really good. And I also just think there's a lot to kind of learn from their prompt and how they've done things. Just given that they know Anthropic better than anyone on the planet. And I don't know. I think Dan, were you the one who, or was it you, Hannis, who was like looking at how they like, for instance, wait for checks to happen after submitting a PR to make sure that nothing broke, and then deal with it. I don't even remember how you did that, but I feel like that's just like a really cool idea where I didn't even think that was possible. So I don't know. I think I'm just looking to be inspired by what they're doing and how good of an
Yeah,
experience it is.
the GitHub. I was using Claude Code, and I noticed it. It didn't do this every time, but it when it submitted the PR, it ran a GitHub check watch function and pinged every 10 seconds. Well, the checks, the CI checks did their thing. And typically I would open the PR afterwards and then look at the web and, make sure it passed everything. And if it didn't, I would go back to Roo Code and say, hey, do this or do that to fix it. Well, we integrated it into one of our workflow steps. So now, because we were using Claude Code and we saw this initially, and so now what happens is once we submit a fix, a PR, it waits, checks it, keeps checking it, and then once it's done, it goes, hey, tests aren't passing. And then it just starts fixing them. And sometimes we haven't added this to the workflow, but sometimes it just gets the hint. Sonnet's pretty smart that way, or Opus, and it just submits the changes and watches the tests again. And so that's just Claude Code has got some really neat things going for it. I think that the goal behind Claude Code ultimately wasn't to take our cake or anyone else's cake. The goal is to show people how to use Claude. They make manuals, they make documentation, and they've really, I think, one-upped a lot of people and inspired them to really, we look and go, oh, that's how to use it, and we can implement those principles. I don't think they're looking at all to be the people that are taking our cake, because as long as they have the best models, which arguably they're one of the best, many people say the best, as long as they've got those models, I think that people will simply flock to them, whether or not they have a agent or command line tool.
Yeah, and I see the chat here. Like, I don't know if they've optimized it with techniques that they only have. My sense is that they're just really good at prompting, and I don't know. Like, at least it seems like a lot of the things that Cloud Code's doing with their prompt, we could probably optimize our prompt to do a little better as well. Like, I've been interested in how they seem to be more reliant on command line, based on commands than we are. I think when we first started with Roo, there's just a lot of like, I guess, thinking about all the ways that commands could go wrong if someone tried to get the LLM to run a command that did something that you didn't want it to do.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you're also seeing Claude Code, I mean, itself on the command line, but it just does a lot more with the different tools. And I think there's room for us to be inspired by that. I know Eric has, and some other people have been looking at how we can just be smarter about how we wield the commands, how we make the commands auto-approvable. Still kind of drives me nuts that how hard it is to like auto-approve a certain command that you're doing. And I'm always too lazy to actually do it. When it's trying to run all these GH commands or something, and I'm like a little nervous to give it access to run every GitHub
I was
command.
talking with Dan I'd like to blacklist,
Yeah.
submitting a PR or submitting a comment, because I
Yeah.
wanted to be able to dig through things. But what I noticed when using Claude Code is it basically asks you for approval, and you can say, look, just authorize this. I think you can say authorize this from now on, or just for this session.
Yeah, but it's
And
also even the little things. Like I think it's pretty smart at knowing like what the prefix is. To like I think suggest the correct prefix. So it won't say like, do you want to whitelist? Do you want to allow list like a really long command that has the PR number in it and stuff? I think it actually uses the
yeah,
LLM to figure out the right prefix. But on
yeah,
the other hand, I think it's you kind of mentioned that it's cool to learn from Claude Code. I think in a lot of ways too. There's things that like Roo and Klein and other people kind of did first, and it's interesting to see them kind of make their way into Claude Code as well. Like even the command prefix, like allow listing, is something. It's
yeah,
just cool, I guess, to both get the validation of the stuff that all of you have been like working on, helping us on, giving feedback, and then seeing how Anthropic themselves comes up with the way to do it. That's like, they're experts, and I just think there's a lot of room for us to like just use it a lot and study it and get better at agents in general. I
yeah,
do think that there probably is room to optimize. Did we talk about this last time? Like right now, we have the same system prompt for every model and every provider, and it really feels like the
yeah,
days of that are numbered. I think as we like get deeper into what they're doing and like what OpenAI is doing, like I think all these labs are writing like really good guides on how to best prompt their model. So it just seems like we have to get there. I think one piece that we've been, Foz, you're asking about how to make Roo work as well as Claude Code. I think the other silver lining in all these things being command line is that it's like really easy for us to kind of compare apples to apples, like through our evals
yeah.
infrastructure to look at how Roo is actually comparing to Cloud Code or to Codex or there's a new Gemini one today, right? And stuff comes at you so fast. But I think it's cool. I think part of the problem is that we use the Aider evals where we're already at like 97% or something. So, you kind of need a microscope to look at whether someone's, 97% or 97.5%. But I have been really, I don't know if Hannis has mentioned this or if you all have noticed it. Like, we've been really interested in the issues that you all are submitting as almost like a real life eval of like what are the things that
Hold on,
people
let me
care
pause for
about.
a sec. I just want to let you
Yeah.
guys know. This is Matt Rubens. This is Mr. Rubens. He is our lead dev and the founder co-founder of Roo Code. So, yeah, now that you're introduced, some people might not know who you are, especially if
Oh
they're
yeah.
watching on
Sorry about
the
that.
YouTubes. So, sorry, you were talking about the issue first. I think you were going to
Yeah.
tell us a little about
Yeah,
remote.
one thing that we've been talking about a lot is this question. I have the same question that all of you have, which is like how does Roo compare to a lot of these other agents, and where's it better, and where could we learn from other things? I think that evals are a great way to do that. If we have like the same task and we can try it with different models to learn and get better. I think at the end of the day, like it's so
Mhm.
early that everyone's trying to get better, and I assume that there's a lot
Yeah.
of interest like from everybody in this topic. So we have one thing that Hannes and I and Dan and everybody have been working on is like really looking at the issues that come in, the most of which are, the majority of which are, are things that are like really well framed and very thoughtful, especially given that you all put up with our kind of templates that we've put in there to try to make sure that we get these things that are structured well. But a
Hmm.
big part of trying to get like structured issues is not just for, Hannes and Dan and I to look at, but also like as we experiment with, just seeing how far Root can get on these issues itself. I think in some ways, like all of you, we kind of early on, we were talking a lot about how we use Roo to build Roo internally. But I think the more that we kind of use the issues to kind of trigger Roo, it's kind of like all of you are also using Roo to build Roo, which is kind of a cool idea too. But it just, I don't know if you all have been following, but we're not at like a 97% accuracy on building the issues in a way that is good enough, that we
Hmm.
want to ship to production. So to me, that's been like something I've been really focused on lately is like, how can we do better on taking things that people want done and actually understanding that? And in the same way that we've kind of worked like with us, like driving Roo, like with our hands on the steering wheel and gripping the wheel in a lot of cases, like how can we kind of automate that a little bit more, get a little bit more self-driving, take these ideas around the different kind of planning and acting and custom modes, and all the things. And Hannis and Dan in particular have been doing a ton of work on these different modes that they're demonstrating here. Like if you Hannis, if you pop open that little mode selector, like, there's issue writer, there's PR reviewer, there's I mean, there's like a million things. There's probably like, Matt is being a jerk, communicator or something in there. You can really like automate. You got your secret list down below the fold there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just like really excited. I think it just feels like there's a lot of like real world stuff and like a lot of room to do better here. So yeah, long story short, like I'm excited about this. Like in my dream world, like every issue that comes in, like we'd run a Roo agent against it, we'd run a Codex against it, we'd run a cursor agent against it, we'd write a Claude code against it. You'd end up having, I mean, my condolences to everyone who has to review all this stuff. Hopefully it's more agents and not only people. But I just think it'd be really cool to see like, hey, there's a lot of things out there building our ideas, and let's see what rises to the top. So long story, I mean, that's probably way more of an answer than you're looking for, but that's been something I've been thinking about lately is how can we like, just build more and give like harder problems to the agents.
My takeaway from that is issues, quality issues. When people can make them, things happen. Yesterday night, Lou's one of our contributors. He told me, hey, there's a problem with Claude Code. It's doing this and this. And I said, well, can you just make an issue and I'll get Roo on it. And he made the issue and I dumped it into Roo. And I had to go back and forth with Roo a little bit because it found an answer, but I had a feeling it wasn't the answer, so I redirected a little. It was a good answer, but not the answer I liked. Anyways, within half an hour, we had a solution. We ran it through first issue fixer mode, then ran it through PR reviewer mode, then PR fixer mode, and then PR reviewer mode again. And the solution looks pretty good. Dan will look at it this morning. He might make some tweaks, but the fixes, including getting the tokens accurate here, were easy to come by. And it all came because he was able to make an issue. It wasn't a fancy issue. It was just clear. It wasn't it's broken. Because it's broken. I mean, when people tell me Roo is broken, I believe them. Always. It's totally 100% realistic. And even though they might be one of the few people, often, a small percentage of people are experiencing it, I'm not of the mind that that's caused by them. I know that there's so many variables going into the environments that Roo is running on that it happens all the time where you can be one of the only people or one of the only people reporting an issue. And so I think often when we ask people for more information, it can feel sort of like we're saying, look, it's not broken, prove it. But that's not the case. Like, I get frustrated when it's broken, so I'm sorry if sometimes it comes across like that. I'm just really, really excited to get you guys answers. Here's an example on my screen of an issue. I had started it. I told it, hey, look, the reasoning is not displaying. Is it active or just not displaying? And I used the issue writer, and we have here, based on my comprehensive investigation and a duplicate search, I'm confident this is a valid new bug report. The issue is well documented with technical analysis, code base specific. It says Sonnet 3.5 and Sonnet 4. I don't know. That's not. I guess it would apply to both. And it gave us a list on this. I'm going to say that let me review the final issue content one more time before creation because I don't know. It seemed a little. I like to review it because I don't want to just dump on the Roo people. Well, I do, but hey, look at this. Claude Code is displaying thinking. Ha-ha! So it does work.
Who built that?
I did. Well, Roo did. I just don't know how to get it. It seems like it decides to have thinking sometimes and not others. I'm not sure. Whereas when we have thinking enabled, it sort of does it all the time, either yes or no.
Yeah, that's maybe the pre-processing I was talking about earlier. It seems like Claude Code does some pre-processing of the request, see if it needs to think or not. Might be it.
Yeah. Okay, so we have expected. Reasoning thinking process should be displayed in collapsible reasoning blocks in the chat, similar to other providers. Actual. No reasoning thinking content is displayed in the chat, even though the model supports it, and other providers, like AWS Bedrock. They show reasoning properly. So there's technical analysis. Anyways, this is an issue that I'm going to go ahead and create. Even though it is showing it sometimes, it is not showing it all the time, and that does need to be sorted out. Hey, look at that. It's streaming the thinking, sort of. Okay, it just plopped it in chunks. So I guess when you're streaming with Claude Code, it doesn't stream. It's like stepped. It comes in, chunk it. The chunks are just larger. Instead of typical streaming where, you see it, whatever, every 10 tokens or something. Okay, so create an issue. Yeah, let's do this.
Yeah, the way we parse messages from any provider, we can identify the reasoning when it comes in, but then the actual message comes in, and we need to wait until it finishes. In this case specifically, so we can parse it and show it. So that's why it comes in 2 pieces.
And Hannis, I think there's a question about whether some of these modes, I guess, for instance, the issue writer, are going to be available in the Roo marketplace. Is that something y'all are working towards?
Yes, we have a flattening feature that we're implementing. We're going to be merging today, if we haven't already merged, that allows us to take the more complex code structure of, when we set up modes. So issue writer, for example, if you look at it, I've got, it's all this stuff. And if you go over to your settings, it's sort of like, well, look, this is, there's nothing in here. So if I went into my settings over here, my project modes, I'd look and go, well, there's nothing here. It doesn't have all the stuff, all the custom instructions. And so we're adding a advanced tool to flatten that, so then we can dump it into a single YAML file and put it in the Roo marketplace. All we need to do right now is extract some of the Roo Code specific. We have some Roo Code specific lingo in there, saying that this is for the Roo Code repository. And so I want to find a way to configure that. I'm thinking maybe I'll put a spot at the top of the instructions so people can just come in here and configure it right there. To put their repository, or maybe just get it to check what repository the person's checked out in right now. If they have whatever branch they have checked out, just assume that that's the repository that they're referring to. So yeah, these are looking at probably landing in the store or in the marketplace within a week or so, because they're working. My one concern about putting these in the marketplace is, since we're tweaking them continually, I'm concerned that when we tweak them, people won't get the updates. So we are looking at a mechanism for informing and allowing people to update that prompt. But then again, people might put their own information in there and make that prompt their own. One of the major features that I think is very underutilized by people is modes. Custom modes, their own custom modes, not just other people's custom modes. People want to go in and go, well, I want the best issue fixer there is. And so I'm just going to select that one. And that's great, but your code and the way you have built it are not always standard. They might be better, they might be worse, they might just be different. And when we write modes, often they apply somewhat narrowly to how we're using them. And the broader we make them, I find often the less accurate they are. So there's this struggle to make a mode that is specific to our use case and broad so it can apply to everybody. But broad, people go, well, it doesn't work. So one of the modes custom modes being underutilized, my point is that I think this might help people get into tweaking modes a little more. Once they can download them and we can maybe make it easier or show them how to tweak these to their specific project, they'll experience like major jump in effectiveness of AI. And I know that it's cool to have an out-of-the-box thing that just works, but I have not seen one that truly just works. There always needs to be some sort of tweaking and tuning, and we're always thinking about ways to help automate that or use AI to assist. But I think a large part of the context of a code base is actually in our heads, something we don't write down. Certain behaviors, certain patterns that aren't always that apparent to AI the way we have it set up right now. And so I know that AI is advancing, et cetera, but in the meantime, coming up with creative ways for you to be able to easily take advantage of AI without too much monkeying around, we like that. So I'm excited for bringing these custom modes to the marketplace and figuring out a way to update them and even see what updates people have. I'd love to put together some sort of mechanism that allows people to share their version without it bogging down the marketplace. So, yeah, Matt, that is my answer to your question. Sorry, I didn't tell you that beforehand, that I was going public with this stuff, but
It's the best place to brainstorm on the office hours.
yeah. So, where was I? I was showing this here. I'm going to share my screen and stop sharing that screen and share another screen. Let's share. Oh, this one. Share this window. Oh, here we go. Okay. So this here is the issue that we just created. Oop, oop, oop. Don't know if it needs to be wider. So, our issue. Okay, it definitely guessed that. So, not a perfect workflow. See, this is the reason why it's not released yet, because I see this kind of thing and I go, there's got to be a way to stop it from doing this. Generally, every time I run Issue Writer, it asks me right off the bat, hey, is this a bug report or a detailed feature request? Even when I don't want it to, like even when I'm clearly telling it something's broken. This time it didn't. It seems there's like a 1 out of 10 or a 1 out of 20 chance this type of thing happens. But good old large language models when you're working live. Okay, so here it gave us steps to repro. Are they the best? Well, I mean, I could have definitely watched them a little closer, but I think that about sums it up. And then we have our expected response, actual response, and I'm going to go in here and add a note. One thing is that sometimes the reasoning blocks do display. I'm not sure what is different. Okay, so I'm going to put these notes here. I'm not just talking to myself. When we run the issue fixer mode, let me show you that one. Let's go back here, share this window, and we're going to create a new task. Go into issue fixer mode. Should we use Opus? Should we break the bank, or should we stick with Claude Code again? I'm rolling the dice here, guys, because
Opus.
This is so experimental, this Claude Code integration. And by the way, this will be changed also with a PR that is up for review. We don't support images yet. If you do, it will just hang. We need to make some adjustments. So once we get a good issue for that, or make the issue ourselves, then we'll work on it. Okay, so I'm going to take this issue that we created. If you look at our, where'd my things go? We look here. This was our issue. Going to put it there. Going to create a new task in issue fixer mode and give it a go. See what happens. I'm going to zoom out a bit. I'm going to close this. Let's get some more questions while we wait. Adam, haven't talked to you in a while.
Interesting question. So since y'all are going full bore with Roo writing Roo, have y'all thought about maybe annotating the issues that you fix and notating? Obviously, if it's Roo mode, it's Roo doing it. But what provider you are using, so we can start
Good idea.
evaluating. So Dan reads them all the time. Chris reads them all the time. I've seen Chris shouting at Remote, telling them, "This is all wrong. You should do it exactly the way Klein does it," and things
Mhm.
like that. So, but it would be nice because then we'd start getting a sense for, oh, Claude is maybe good at this one, and maybe this one is good at this one. I know M's done a lot of research in using Opus to find memory bugs, for example. So that's like a piece of learned wisdom that we have now. It is pretty good at that.
Yeah. No, that's actually a
Yeah.
good idea. That's a great idea.
Because I've
You know what?
noticed,
If you want to head over to the
Copilot.
issues, you can make an issue saying that, and we'll use
Yeah,
Roo
exactly.
to modify it because we have another mode called Mode Writer mode, and we'll apply it to your issue. 100%. That's a great idea.
Yeah, I think
The
that's a good idea.
inceptionist is weird. It's like, okay, so hey, go tell Roo to go do that thing, and it'll probably get done.
Matt, what were you going to say?
Sorry.
Yeah, that's my bet. Yes, tell Roo. It's all we do is prompt these days. I was going to say, I think it's an interesting point that, like, asking about, what model that was used for this, and R4VI here in the comments is asking about adding the prompts and as Git notes. I do think there's something where it's like, as more of us are using these LLMs to do our work, there's still like not a ton of visibility into how people are using it. And just from what I've seen, my work here, my work at previous companies, is some people are a lot better at it than others, or some people are really good at it in some ways and could be a lot better in other ways. So I do think it's a really interesting opportunity to expose more of what the LLM was thinking as it built something. And to include that into, if you're reviewing a PR, instead of you being like, why did you do this? Actually being able to read the history, I think could really tell a story that helps bring you along and give better feedback. So that's been something that we've been thinking about a lot. And actually, if you, it's a little bit of a spoiler, I guess, but if you look in Nightly, like, we've been working a lot on a feature to let people kind of share their tasks in
Is
a
that
way
what
that
this
other
button's
people
for?
can see them. Yes, that button that is disabled while it's working. But yes, we do have a new share link button that makes it easier for people to opt into doing exactly what you're doing. And I think I keep wanting to say Ravi, I don't know if that's right, R4VI. To their point, I'm going to start sharing my prompts a lot more when I make PRs within Roo, just to give people more context. And would definitely be interested to see like how that changes things for people that I'm collaborating with. And interested to see if other people enjoy doing that too. Thanks, Ravi.
Yeah, for sure. I like that idea.
So you're telling me that I'm not going to be able to start my prompt with, "This is bullshit." Like, you're saying that's probably not a good idea if we're automatically sharing our prompts in our output.
Or
We
maybe
don't
that's
have
the way to. Yeah, maybe that's the way to do it. Maybe that's the optimal prompt.
I just
So
have
everyone
this
needs to
itch
do
to
it.
sometimes see what happens if I talk to it differently. Like, will it just pretend like nothing? It just does. They totally train it to just ignore me. But, like, is it going to alter its behavior? Is it going to make it worse? I'll be honest, I don't think it changes anything. I haven't noticed if I say please or now or just talk to it like I'm a computer and it's a computer. But it feels good to sometimes say, shit.
Yeah,
I
I
think
do.
M
This
has
is.
some. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, Hannis is totally inspiring me. I want to build not only like being able to share these things, but to be able to like comment on them or add emoji on them or something. I get my popcorn out for seeing how Hannis talks. Maybe I have to build the human resources mode as well. But
Oh, man. A human
so
resources mode to monitor everything, my input,
yes,
before it
the
goes
Hannis
to the
the
sharing.
Hannis monitor mode. Yeah,
Okay, so
too
what
big
are
of a
we at
job.
here? If you look here at the screen, this has been going on for quite some time. It got the issue. It got the issue comments. So in the issue comments, it would have seen that I would have said, well, I mean, it's pretty verbose, but it would have had my blurb outlining the difference. Then, based on the issue analysis, yada, 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 now it used code-based search. This is the indexing down here. Then we continued on. Ooh, there it did some thinking. So it did some erroring. Oh, and blah, blah, blah. Now let's explore the code base more. Still exploring code base. Condense things. Well, that's cool. More. Wow, we're still going. Okay, so I guess it's really Opus works really hard to find these problems. I'm hoping that what it comes back to me is telling me that there's nothing wrong, because I think the issue is that Opus simply, or that the thinking blocks from Claude Code are intermittent in the first place. So when they're there, they're displaying them. When they're not, they're not. That's the right answer.
I think the only thing missing from these automated workflows, PRs, is a way to for Roo to check the result. Like right now, it can write some unit tests and it will check that the solution is not causing issues. But I think with end-to-end testing, we can probably get it to actually test the whatever feature that it made properly. So it can go back and see if it runs the test and finds out that it's not working as it expects. It can just go back and keep working on it. Yeah. Because most of the time you you create a new task with PR fixer or issue fixer mode, and then at the end it will just run the unit tests and say, okay, that is fixed. Then you go in and it's not actually fixing the original issue. So thinking of a way of making the agent verify its own work other than unit testing, it's probably something that we need to explore more.
Well,
soon.
I guess we'll get Roo on that soon enough, hopefully.
Yeah, actually, we do have a integration tester mode that writes some end-to-end tests. And it's actually pretty good. It's basically able to write a test one shot. And
I wonder if we should maybe set up another VM and just keep it going on those all day. Is there a easy way to put together a list of all the tests we want, so we can basically just say, look here, orchestrator mode, go through these one by one and make them, and yeah.
I do have a list actually of all. It's a pretty general list. It's not as detailed as it could be, but we do have a list to basically every part of Roo that we want to test with end-to-end testing. Then with that, a mode that is fixing something, it can run the relevant end-to-end tests, see if it breaks something or if it fixed the issue, write another one if it needs a new one. That's something really cool we need to also check out.
Well, maybe we'll look at that a little later today, actually. Okay, where are we at? Oh, Adam, go ahead.
I was going to say, don't discount simple snapshot testing either. So just simply going in, running your end-to-end test, and then at various points that are relevant to the fix, just take a snapshot of the screen so a human can look at it really, really quickly. We did this at a company we had, we had a very complex product, and it was really fast just to tell the system to go run end-to-end test, snapshot it, and a human should go yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. Anyway, it was a good way to triage quickly.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Yeah. I think that it came up with a solution, and there might be something to it, but I'm going to install this, and we now have Context7 up there. Let's look into the Claude Code SDK, and Claude Code command line documentation. You see what output patterns might arise, as well as to see there is a way to always enable, disable thinking. One thing, there is something up with this. This context is still growing too quickly. I don't think it's reporting accurately because now it's going to compress it again. I just don't think it, like the caching is actually not doing its thing. I think that's what's happening. Well, we'll dig more into it. For now, you can see it's working pretty good. Anybody that wants to dig deeper into the mechanisms here, this isn't a terribly complex provider. We're happy to get people's input, whether they're making issues or coming up with some creative PRs. We're happy to get those because, yeah, I don't use this provider all day long. I'm often using just OpenRouter, and yeah, I have 3 or 4 sessions going on at once. I'd burn through my limits pretty quick with Claude Code, and I actually like to use Claude Code directly to see how it operates and understand it, and put it head to head with Roo. Some problems it seems to do better at. Some, when they're broader, it doesn't seem to get as well because it doesn't find the needle in the haystack required to deal with that problem. The code base indexing that's currently experimental, but we're hoping to get out of experimental by the end of this week. That gives Roo the ability to one more tool to search and find all the instances of what you're talking about to make sure that it's applying the change to the right part of the code base. Whereas Claude Code seems to use a more focused approach, less broad up front, and that can lead to go, okay, well, look, there's this stuff named this over here, so this must be it. But sometimes projects seem to have similar naming patterns in 2 different areas. So when you say, hey, I want to change this, it goes, yeah, look, I found it. And it did find it, and it does change it. But what about the other stuff? So when Roo Code can find both of these very 2 similar implementations of the thing that we're talking about, determining which one, I think Roo often lands on its feet a lot better because it can see both of those. So, but that being said, Claude Code has some very cool mechanisms in the background that it figures things out that I'm sort of wondering, like, wow, how did it do that? So I do like to play with that and understand it. They inspire me to improve Roo. They're a great product. Okay, what do we have here? Oh. Okay. It's been searching through. Go ahead.
It didn't try to use Context7.
Oh, did I even say use Context7?
Yep.
I don't think did I say Context7 MCP?
Yeah, I think you did, but then it condensed, so it might
No, it doesn't lose the last message. Well, my distracted prompting here, I swear I normally do better. Luz said yesterday that this process is sort of like babysitting Sheldon. Yeah. So, if you understand the reference, I think that's quite accurate. Okay. Let's. Okay, so it just went ahead and did its thing. I'm going to back right off to this and say, let's look into the Claude. using the Context7 MCP. All it did was went and submit our branch, I think. Yeah, it's got some changes it wants to. Committed our changes. Okay. Yeah, it keeps doing this compression thing. I feel like it's not fully applying the fix we applied yesterday. It just does not make sense. We'll dig more into this today, guys. If you have any insight while you're using it, please let us know. Create an issue if you see some common pattern. That would make life a lot easier for us. And Roo. Okay, questions. Happy to log a bug. Sometimes I am encountering in Google Gemini. Eventually has issues applying diffs. Something other. Okay, yeah, that is actually. It seems that the context allowance in Gemini works well for X number of turns. People go, oh, once you hit 300,000, once you hit 400,000 context, it goes to crap. But I actually have experienced not that it goes to crap once you hit a certain context level, but a certain number of turns. Maybe 10 or 12 turns, it starts to degrade and forget those instructions. When you compress the context, it actually pulls it back to basically be a new chat with a blurb, a summary of what was going on and what the next steps are. That gets it back on track. The extended context, you get the 1 million context, is not that useful for small turns back and forth, but it's very useful when you're going, look, read all 17 of these translation files and then fix them all or change them all, because that's a lot of context. And next thing you know, it's over 500,000. But it's still working just fine. So I very much don't think that it degrades that much based on the context, very much on the number of turns. It just happens to be that's usually when you're higher up in the context, if that makes sense. I would suggest using the manual compression, I guess, condense the chat more often. When you see it degrade, just click that button and see what happens.
Yeah, you can also we released that feature where you can set up different auto condensing thresholds for different providers, right? So if you wanted to, I think you could treat Gemini as essentially having a 200,000 token window, and do the smart compression. Once it hits that, you'd still have the full million in case, to not error out if you went over it. I do wonder if it would be cheaper and do better if you set that to 20% of the total just for Gemini. It obviously doesn't really work for a smaller context window like Sonnet.
I guess if you're doing an automated thing, a process, and that you have the turn, that you're going to fill the turns up like that. I find that with Gemini, it's more of a manual thing, because if you have a task that requires a big chunk of reading, it does quite well as long as it's not doing that reading one at a time. If it does the reading in multiple or concurrent file reads, it seems to be quite effective. You just have to sort of pull it around a bit to get it do that. But that I guess that's not the long-term goal, is to get Roo to work without constant manual intervention. So that's a tweak for the people that are playing with it all the time. I think what you're saying really does apply if you're basically running an auto mode.
Yeah, and another thing I've noticed is you see Gemini degrading, but only for tool use. Like you don't see it hallucinating or something like that. It is able to understand what you're saying. The only thing that degrades is basically the tool use at some point, at certain amount of turns, like you said. So yeah, condensing manually, when that happens, it really helps a lot. And if you see you can see that we have a default prompt for condensing. You can tweak it depending on what you're working on. So if you want to keep certain steps that you're following, you can tweak that prompt for condensing as well. I'm using a custom one actually. It's actually pretty good. So if you tweak it to what you're doing, probably gonna work much better.
Okay. Cool. Good input. Thank you. Okay, so as you can see, this mode is going through and building Roo without too much input from me. We've come to the conclusion that you can't control the reasoning thinking via the command line flag. So I'm basically saying, look, well, let's disable that. The ability to enable it or disable it, because it's not being respected. When it was put in there, it was a little late at night, and I didn't put together that wasn't available. So that's my bad. Sorry if anyone was hopeful they could tweak that. I know I was. Okay. So we're about at our time here. Any final questions that we can get in here? Somebody said they keep getting the 429 resource exhausted, too many requests. That means that you are hitting your limit. When you set up Vertex, you have some restrictive limits. Sometimes you can request them to be lifted, but you said you're running on a trial account. You have to. It's quite a maze. It's quite a minefield to manage the rate limits, and Roo Code has pretty big context, so it doesn't usually work the best for this type of thing. Those low rate limits, they're good for direct chats without huge system prompts, but unless you spend some time figuring out how to increase these, then you just will keep hitting those 429s, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, basically.
No.
Oh, go ahead.
1 second. To do with the Claude Code thinking, I do remember reading some documentation around them mentioning that you can increase the thinking budget by including words like ultra thinking and to think extra hard. So I believe it's dynamic.
Okay.
Interesting.
So we can test that. We can send those words and see if it triggers reasoning every single time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. Okay, we are at 10 o'clock. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for our office hours. I look forward to talking to you again next week, and thank you for using Roo Code.